Hello, this is your host Akhil Navluri, and welcome to the brand new episode of the Space podcast series. In this podcast episode, I'm super thrilled and honored to welcome one of the most eminent and prominent industry leaders pertaining to the IT space, Mr. Tim Biedenkapp, who happens to be the director of information management and AI for the company adorsys. And along with that, he's a fellow podcaster like me, and he has his own podcast initiative, which is called the Tapas and Pretzels. So, Tim, it gives me a super pleasure to welcome you to this podcast initiative of mine. I mean, I find it really very much, interesting to collaborate with you because it's like two podcasters on the same platform. So I really feel, and there's a lot of curiosity from my end. I would like to understand how your podcast and how did you come up with your podcast idea, which we will catch up. I mean, as we go forward into this conversation. So Tim, now I wanted to understand this, like how did your weekend go? Like to start on a lighter note, how was your weekend, by the way?
Thanks, Akid, for having me. Yeah. So yeah, from podcast to podcast, the weekend. Yeah. Well, it's Monday. We're recording on Monday, so I was actually the weekend. I spent it with some of my friends, with some guys here. I'm the Pretzels part of the podcast. So I'm living in Germany. So we went to a little village. No, it's actually not a little. It's a bigger town here in Germany. It's called Bamberg, and they're really famous for having the highest density of breweries in Germany, and they're producing excellent beer there. So you can all imagine how my weekend was. So I'm happy to stay here quite straight.
All right. That's amazing. Looks like you had a great weekend. And listeners, before you ask me questions about, where Tim is based out of, Tim is based out of Frankfurt, Germany, and connecting with a podcaster from other continent, from Europe, like distances away from Australia. So really looking forward for this, podcast collaboration going along, Tim. So Tim, the major thing, like as a podcaster, that I am very much curious to understand is like about your journey. So Tim, can you just give me a walkthrough about your entire journey in the IT industry?
Okay, the entire journey. Okay, that's a really broad question. So I try to keep it brief because I started in the age of about 14 coding, because my dad gave me a book like "Stop Computer Gaming, Please Code Something," and I started implementing my first Visual Basic application, the first calculator. So I've done the book. It's like, okay, that's fine. Okay, it reflects how I think, and now I understand better how computer games works. And then I started basically off like, well, a couple of years later, the internet came out for us at home, so I started build my own websites by that time,
Okay.
and well, then acted as a freelancer, studied computer science, and then worked in multiple places. So basically, I started as a software developer at a big automotive company here in Germany. Um, and yeah, well, multiple stops with different technology vendors like database, data warehouse companies, Hadoop, well, big data companies, and then also NoSQL database companies. And then I moved over like from the product consulting side and the other side on the enterprise side, where worked there as an enterprise architect, that was basically guiding the company through a lot of digital change, where we redesigned the whole application landscape, well, introduced the whole RESTful interface, application designs, and also information landscape. How do the company deal with information and functions here? And then I moved on to another big enterprise where I was the one of the lead architects for establishing the concept of data mesh within a large
Right.
organization with a couple of 100,000 people working in the organization. And
Okay.
now, and now I'm with the consulting again. As I said, I'm the director. It's now called AI and Data Services in adorsys. But anyway, that's still I'm focused on everything that relates to data and AI topics. So
All right.
that's my current position. Yeah. So
Perfect.
and
Perfect. That's amazing. Awesome. Awesome, Tim. That's a very good overview about your career. Now, Tim, like I mean, I would go a little bit back. I would, let's say, go a little bit through the flashback now. So you told me that you created your website. So my listeners would be very keen to understand, like, what was that website about, and like, what were the plans behind that?
well, that was just simply like me. The internet was brand new basically, and this everyone wants to have a website, and it was basically a website about me and probably computer gamings. And
Okay.
so you had things like marquees, so text that's going from left to right. That was simple HTML, and then I started using JavaScript, and then I learned a bit of JavaScript hacking, stuff like that. So I
Oh.
explained basically how well you can easily hack some JavaScript password authentications by the time. But and then I drifted more into the PHP topic, and there was quite active in some PHP forums and helped others to learn
Right.
PHP. But well, by that time, that was before I actually started studying computer science. And well, I think I haven't touched PHP anymore. I think the last project in PHP I did in university. Well,
Right.
I studied actually distributed computer science and security. So I think the last thing I did in PHP was a password brute force
Hmm.
solvers because we had to write something in not a standard language that like Java I had in university, so PHP at that time. Yeah, I think this was more my personal visit card, and then oh well, well sorry, I continued because I worked my when I was in the high school and also at World University, I worked as a freelancer and built multiple
Okay.
websites for different companies. That was how I
Right.
financed my studying. So. So still, I did some PHP projects. Yeah.
That's a complete inspirational note, to be
Yeah.
honest, Tim. Seriously, I mean, the way you were talking about, because back then when I was in college, for me, certain of these technologies, the thing that I learned was only C and C++ when I was in my BTech, which is called Bachelor of Technology in India.
Yeah.
And now when you were talking about websites about computer games, were all the things, the instructions of the computer games written in English, or were they written in in German?
Well, the book was Visual Basic for kids, and Visual Basics has still like these for, while, do, loop concepts. So all the keywords are still in English. And I think
Okay.
nowadays you have programming languages which are made for kids in local languages. So,
Okay.
but by that time it was English. And well, I
All
have the
right.
advantage that my grandparents are from the US. So I do have some relatives from the
Oh,
UK, from the US, and stuff like that, and that gave me a little jump start.
perfect. So a lot of exposure to English at an early age then.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah,
good.
yes, not that massive as it could be, but I had at least some.
That's a
Yeah.
pretty good insight on that, Tim. Now, Tim, heading on to this, I would just like to understand, like at your company, adorsys, like what are your roles and responsibilities of being, the director of, information management and AI?
Well, yeah, that's a good one. Well, well, at the director, basically, I'm the heading the whole business unit. So Adorsys
Okay.
consists of multiple business units, and I'm heading one of the business units. So, and I it started with like I defined the strategy. I help what we define on the marketing, how we roll up marketing. I try to get the right people on board, and I'm also doing sales and also project delivery.
Right.
So I from a day-to-day job, like almost everything. Like I really actually delivering projects by consulting and advising companies. I help in sales engagements. I go to conferences as a speaker. I do my podcast. That's part of the marketing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so everything basically. But you go more broad than deep, to be honest, because I have really smart people with me in my organization, which are
Right.
much smarter than I am. But I still learn from them, and then I use that for marketing purposes or whatever. That's yeah, that's my daily doing basically.
Awesome. What I feel, everything that you learn, even a drop by drop kind of a thing from people, that itself is like a gold, that you could actually, apply and utilize in your career growth. So I really feel whatever you're trying
Yeah.
to inculcate or let's say grab from your, from your colleagues, that is actually helping you out achieve really big in your career.
Absolutely, and it's not only internally like therefore I really like to go out and meeting people, especially in conferences and stuff like that, and talk to others because it's always great. You will never be the smartest person, and everyone out there has a field where he has an expertise on and that I learned from. A lot of my friends are not in the IT industry, and so these people are really interested into history or electronics and stuff like that. So, and if you go and talk to these people, you get an even broader horizon about things that you can learn
Yeah.
that keeps me motivated. This maybe also this before I don't want to spoil your agenda, but like this is why I started the podcast because I like talking to others and learn from others. and basically the podcast helps me to do that.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. I mean that's really good. I mean, now I don't want to, leave the I don't want to, leave the cat out of the bag right now.
Mhm.
Telling more about the podcast, but I mean, let's go through the suspense about it when the time comes. I'll definitely talk more on that
Yeah.
about your podcast initiative on the whole. We can definitely have a huge conversation based on it. Now,
Sure.
yeah. Now, basically, since I understand from your profile that you have that complete, let's say, the tenacity and that exposure to API. Now, if I would just like to ask you, Tim, like what has been your take on the API management and along with that the data governance associated with it?
Oh yeah. So, well, I think even so, I started really early in technology. I'm a big fan. I'm a technology lover. But one thing that I've learned, technology on its own cannot really solve all the problems, and therefore API is for me a great thing to have to expose and function and interconnect systems to provide more complex functions. But
Right.
to do so, I really emphasize on the management part of it because whenever we as a company build a function, that means building something and maintaining something involves cost. And
Hmm.
there must be some sort of value stream where some people from the business say like, it makes sense that we have this function or this more complex chain of functions into more value proposition for the company. And therefore, you need a dedicated ownership. Like who owns this function in the company and who's feeling responsible that this function provides the value as it's supposed to be. And value is not always talking like in dollar signs. It's more also value could be like, well, customer satisfaction, better partner integration, data quality, or more reliability for something. This is where you have direct and indirect effects, and that really was when I started with the company. Almost everything was about batch, and batch jobs were running overnight, and the night was not long enough to proceed all the batch jobs. So I
Yeah.
helped them basically. Okay, let's think about like online integration. You could have an immediate connection between one application and the other application. And there are a lot of things which are really close to the end customer and some things which are more to the backend. You need to have multiple levels and different quality levels on that. And I try to establish a more API first thinking in the company. Like, okay, guys, this is your domain, you're responsible for this, you offer functions, and you need to integrate with others because they do the actual contracting work and talk about APIs. What is that you need as an input or as an output, or what is it? And I try to get people aligned with it. And then actually, I helped the company also to build their first public APIs, which were used to third-party vendors on RESTful APIs. That was a real
Right.
painful experience because the board members they were listening to me. It's like, oh great, Tim has great ideas. So we have everything now in RESTful APIs and we can integrate easily with others. So that was the message. The problem is the whole IT inner landscape was not on RESTful APIs. So the board sold these APIs to other companies, and they were
Okay.
expecting to have everything within a 6 month range, so that they
Oh
could
my
integrate
God.
their core banking system to our systems. And I had to run through the enterprise and really restfulize a lot of APIs which were done before, well, on batch job or not at all. So this was a quite painful ride, but it helped me to really transform a lot of, well, create
Okay.
a lot of function in the company as RESTful APIs. Put it that way. Well, so I learned things by heart. Also, like expectation management is something I learned.
Okay.
Do not oversell or overcommit things because things can roll up pretty fast, and then gonna run into so many difficulties where you have to, well, yeah, break people, and it's like, no, we're not ready yet. You cannot expose an API. An API is something that matures over time. We have to run multiple iterations, but and then there are people expecting it, waiting for it. So
Yep.
yeah, that's something I have learned, and I like to be actually in the position of being the bridge between the pure technical guys and the business people because I
Absolutely.
love to speak both languages, and I have a certain understand. I think I understand technically even better than the business people, but I can bridge the communication and deal with expectation management and translate the languages or
Right.
catalyst more ideas here. Yeah, so that's what I like doing. That's my lessons learned about functions and APIs and how to transform organizations. Yeah.
That's amazing to know, Tim. Now, Tim, when we talk about connecting multiple systems, now I want to understand from your end, how do you identify there are external systems outside, and what are the data sources that you try to find out these?
Oh, there are multiple approaches to it. Yeah, most people are actually aware of, well, if you talk to business people, they have at least some references or ideas they would like to have and integrated. And then it's easier for you for your business analysts or architects or team members identify if there are APIs they could use for it or how to integrate them. Sometimes not an API, sometimes a database connection or something. Um, and then you go on the market and search for APIs or let others inspire you. You talk to others in the companies like, okay, we need this function. This is the puzzle piece who is missing. Who might have something like this?
Yeah,
So instead of reinventing the wheel, you reuse existing things and probably make smaller enhancements or adjustments to it, and then exposing multiple versions of APIs or different branches of APIs. And then it's still, if you branch something or spin up new APIs, someone has to maintain it. It's not a single shot. It's probably think more in a product. You build something in a product that has more use for one than only one single use case,
all right.
how this could be used for others, and then start get people to thinking. And then if you have a value chain and you know the outcome, people are more likely to subsidize financially wise the development of something else. But it's again, it's
All right.
about talking multiple people in the chain.
That's amazing. I mean, when you were just telling me about, the missing pieces in the puzzle or whatever, I feel like, the
Yeah.
API management is more like a treasure hunt. Finding, as far as you remember, right? In treasure hunt, there's one hint, then there's another hint,
Yep.
and then finally you reach to the main destination. So I kind of, correlated with that.
Well, yeah, it's kind of true. It depends where you're starting in the maturity curve and the size of an organization. So some organizations, as I had in the past, like they had literally almost no maturity at all. Like they had to build everything from scratch. But if you go through bigger organizations which have matured over time, the API thinking,
Yeah,
sometimes they have API marketplaces and they have redundancy. Like let's for like shipping APIs or tracking APIs. So if
yeah,
you have
yeah,
a parcel that goes from A to B, um, each and every division in the company has its own tracking API and
yeah,
multiple of them. And then you have like you search in the marketplace, you find 50 tracking APIs. Like, oh my gosh, I cannot understand which to use because it's completely black box for me. And then actually they're creating APIs on top of these 50 APIs that do the routing for you. So basically you have core
yeah,
services, aggregation services,
everything.
business value services, so multiple layers here. And really I was talking to one customer, and there was like, okay, we have those so many APIs here, and the problems we're having competitors build providing services that basically that which routing to the end users to the right API service because we were not able to do it, and these guys making a lot of money just providing a service that runs on top of our APIs to make it more transparent for the users. And
Right,
there was
right.
a real pain because I said earlier, like it's not only about the money, it's about also customer satisfaction. And
Absolutely.
developers from other companies, they also want to be satisfied, otherwise they will not use the APIs.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That completely, sums up the point to me, Tim. Now, Tim, I mean, everyone always has the expertise and let's say the proficiency. Now, when I talk about your proficiency, I want to hear it from you in depth. Would you like to, talk about your expertise and proficiency on the lines of the, let's say the RDF, which is the resource description framework, then data
Mhm.
mesh, then about the data product and different data strategies? Because I myself am a data student, so my curiosity will come
Yeah.
more towards this.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so let's keep the functions aside and poop them aside, and let's start with the real things that matters today is the data side. So I think we're now living in a data in the I world, and we're getting there. I mean, we try to get there. I think we read a lot of things about in on LinkedIn about these people writing and the holy grail, and it seems everyone is already completely full on the AI side, and everything works on AI agents. But I think it's not true as we're talking here 2025.
Yep, yep,
I think there's a lot of things to do. So I started, as I said earlier, one of my career steps was basically helping a large organization. Um, bringing data mesh into place. We did this because we need to scale the data management landscape. And RDF is probably just it's a framework, a language, a resource description framework that helps you to model um, things, business concepts, ideas with a standard language. In the end, this is something which leads you to knowledge graphs because you have model management things, and these are
Yeah,
linked to each other. And then you have linked data, and it's easier for um, integrators to just understand. This is entity is has a link to another entity, and it's linked by some verb, and it's now and it make more sense for me as a developer or data scientist. And so this was a great aha moment for me because when we started initially building data mesh, it was basically okay. Now we have the huge data lakes or data warehouses, but they're scaling technically pretty well. Like they can store exabytes and terabytes and whatever a massive amount of data, structured, unstructured, doesn't matter. But the
yeah,
problem is it's not clear who owns the data. Is it okay to combine this data? Is this data accurate? What data is it like? It was super complex. They didn't scale because like there was one central team and then multiple consumers and multiple producers and absolutely not scaling. Therefore, Samaktivani came up with the idea of data mesh.
yeah,
But the time that thought works, and I liked the idea because it was, as I said earlier, like I love talking between people from business and technology side. Like
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
first time somebody really emphasizing on the business side, like okay, we need to scale organizational wise. Like, oh, that's a great idea. So I helped them basically defining standards, make it more transparent. But the problem then was data mesh has already emphasized more on protocols and standards than like on single technology. And so we're helping them, but the how to make a domain slice basically. So then you have a domain that talks. We have customer data and we have contract data and we have I don't know what kind of data. And the problem then we ended up a lot of things like we had smaller silos, a lot of them. And the question again, like how do we connect now person and contract and whatever we have, a product, for example. I'm making up a database. I don't want to be too explicit here. Um, and how can we bring that glue to get it to navigate over smaller silos? And RDF and knowledge graphs is the glue that I found basically, which is easy for humans to understand because with graph nodes and edges concepts is for humans. We look at it, it's so easy to understand compared to a third normal form diagram. So humans are easy to explore. We're expanding a node and drill down and go there, follow this edge and so. So it's easy for us to understand the complexity and the interconnection of the data.
Yep.
And also it's, for machines, it's amazing to understand and read. I mean, there's so many science around what you can do with a graph, anomaly detection, fraud detection, security. Everything's about graphs, and so machines can easily read it. And now the great thing is also AI understands it because like we when you talk about and it basically is a AI, please generate me something about the account. And how can the AI now know that you're talking about a bank account or an application IT account? I mean, both have an ID, both have a description, both have a name, but one thing is done for managing permissions in IT systems, and one is
Yep.
for checking your well your wealthiness, like how many cash you have in the bank. Yeah.
Exactly.
So and therefore, I think it's not only also about data quality for AI. I think even more important is the meaning, the semantics, the context of the data to
Mm.
your AI.
Yeah, yeah,
Otherwise, you will have AI agents which will talk to each other about an account for hours and
yeah.
spending tokens and tokens and tokens until they discover, oh shit, you're talking about an IT system, you're about a banking agent? Oh, damn it. So wasted a lot of energy,
A lot of
resources, and
time.
money on it instead of having
Exactly.
one single context. And it's like, hey, I'm looking for an agent that talks in an account. I'm talking here. This is my context. This is my axiom in the that I'm understanding. This is the data. This is my conceptual model. Which agent can deal with it? And please get back to me. And this is where I'm
Right.
thinking the world is heading to is
Right.
um,
Right.
agents, but aligned with an axiom of knowledge graphs or uh,
Hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
ontologies of that. Yeah.
Exactly. That's an amazing point put together. I mean, as you were just telling, quality of data doesn't matter. It matters like how well it can be adjusted with respect to the AI and how well it is applied in the real, in the real world
Yeah.
scenario.
And again, it will be then AI agent is it's some sort of API or data. Is it some? I'm dividing always between function and information that that you need both to run an enterprise. Any enterprise that has some digital footprint here. Um, you need to combine this somehow, and there must be some organizational unit where people say, "I understand the data. I understand my business process. I know where my business process starts and where it ends." You need this scope, this frame, and these people can maintain the context pretty well for you.
Yep.
So you need that anyway. And if you don't have that, none of your agents will work. None of the data quality will get improved. And the context will not be described pretty well. And you cannot in AI generate this context for you. This is something humans have to build.
Exactly, exactly. That completely gives me an idea on it. Now, I'm more curious to understand the fact, why do you call a data mesh as a mesh? Is it like, every all the data is completely structured, or let's say crumpled together? That's why they call it as a mesh, or like how does the name get associated?
Oh, the mesh basically is well, you have smaller pieces, and there is standards how these pieces um, can be found on some sort of a marketplace or platform. So there are
Okay.
standards each and every data set or data has that it's be findable, interoperable, the FAIR principles, findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable. So these are the FAIR principles. And if you keep that in mind, you need some platform in the between where you can make all your data findable. So that's
Yeah,
fair.
yeah, yeah.
But to make it, and it's fair if you have certain standards that these data sets will be provided with the metadata on a platform. But the I in fair interoperability is if you do not have like semantic description and know how to integrate the data, that one person has one account or can have multiple accounts, or this is the same as this. If you don't have the semantic description of it, like it's really hard to make things interoperable. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, but the data mesh exists. The mesh, basically the knitting, it's basically the edges between
Yeah, yeah,
data
yeah.
sets. That's the mesh. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, that actually answers my question. Now, more than
Mhm.
anything, like it's my favorite question this time. So, from a podcaster to a podcaster, I am keen to understand this. Like, what was your drive and your, let's say, your inspiration to come up with your podcast initiative, which is really a very interesting title as well, Tapas and
Mhm.
Pretzels.
Oh yeah, so so I think it started all on LinkedIn basically. So I was doing a lot of in the API world on LinkedIn, and there was one guy who has written inspirational posts that I really liked and admired. Like, okay, and this guy is David Rolde Martinez from Spain, from Valencia, and we were started chatting on LinkedIn to each other, like let's get on the phone and talk to each other, and then we met a couple of times and like, oh, we should do something because like we had a lot of energy between us. We were thinking the same directions, and we had really fruitful discussions. Like, amazing, great outcome, great thing here, and we should do something together. Yeah, let's do something together. And so we started. Okay, you know what? We love talking to each other. Why don't we record it and make it as a podcast? Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let's do a podcast. And then
Amazing.
the
Yeah.
question of like, okay, how should we call the podcast? And I think it took us 2 to 3 meetings for at least half an hour, more than an hour, I think, to come with a name. And we started initially on like, hey, why don't we call it the Tim and David Show? Yeah, the Tim and David Show. Let's call it this way. It's a great thing. And then I think the marketing departments of our both companies like, guys, you could do that, but it's super selfish to call the podcast by your name. Come on, can't you be more creative on something? Okay, so then we started around thinking around it. I think a lot of ChatGPT was involved, and also my colleague Inga, she was also with us in the discussions. She was at the time she was shadowing me for multiple purposes, and then for some of the reason things that we really both enjoyed and liked is basically having great food, having great drinks, and having a great conversation. And then we came with like, what combines the German guy and the Spanish guy? Well, It's Tapas and the Pretzels. So why don't we call it this way? And this is was how the podcast was born. And
Right.
so David and I we do this, and Inga's our moderator, so it's a tough thing like to get three people on board plus a guest.
Yeah.
Initially we started just
Yeah.
like David and me talking to each other, like, but we're like, oh, you know what? It's great that we're talking to each other, but like we love to pick up conversations with people that we found inspiring on LinkedIn. So we keep inviting people now, and then basically David and I, we have our public learning session every 2 weeks. We usually try to do every 2 weeks a recording
Right.
because we both have a lot of kind of time constraints, to be honest. Um, and so we invite the people, let them explain their world to us so that we
Yeah.
understand more, and we are eager to learn. And then there's a lot of back and forth and questions. And yeah, so basically, I'm recording my to every 2 week learning session and share it with the rest of the world. And yeah, Tapas and Pretzels is a great fun, and it's nothing where you do make try to make money off it. It's more like get smart people on board, talk to something like do it here, like do you do it right now here, like getting people in, just learn from them, understand what they're doing,
Yeah.
how where they come to the crazy idea of, I don't know,
Exactly.
writing books or thinking of like how we can combine processes and knowledge graphs. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so many things I have learned in the podcast. It's amazing.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's a right point said. Tim. Now, Tim, I'm keen to understand this. Like, do you people have this, idea of, let's say, do a live session sometime, let's say, in an office space or anything like that. I mean, did that thought ever, occur to you?
Oh, absolutely. We will be trying to do that. We will do that. The problem is that David is in Valencia and I'm in Germany, and it's really hard that the one of the other guys flies in the other country.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
happens. It happens from time to time that we are in close to each other, but usually then the other one is somewhere else. So
yeah. That happens.
and it's not that we have enough big audiences. Somebody would pay for it to see us on stage.
Mhm.
So that's we haven't achieved that yet. But we will definitely try to do an on-site podcast and somewhere. So I would
Definitely.
love to. I would love to. Yeah.
And for my listeners, I would, just like to, just unveil the suspense here. I would just like to say that, like me, Tim, and David will definitely collaborate on a roundtable conference very soon, probably in the end of this
Oh,
year.
okay. Okay,
Yeah,
okay. Well, count me in. Count me in if you want.
definitely. And, we're just definitely going to have a good conversation. And yes, it's going to be like, complete spotlight about the Techo Space podcast and Tapas and Pretzels. So it's going to be a complete fun ride, I would assure for sure.
Oh, yeah, of course. Let's get all the podcasters together and we talk about some interesting topics. Amazing. Great idea.
100%, 100%. Looking
Yeah.
forward for that. Awesome. That's good to know, Tim. Now, Tim, now I am personally very much interested to understand. Like you were just giving me a little bit of let's say a glimpse of the the non-knowledge graphs. Now, if I would just like complement it with another topic, I would say that how are you able to reflect your thoughts combining, let's say, connecting the synergies of the knowledge graphs and design thinking.
Yeah. So that's a really good thing. Like I think I recently wrote an article about it. Knowledge graphs and design thinking. Yeah. So well, when I entered the knowledge graph world, I discovered things. The biggest question is like all the people have in my like, okay, how should I start with a knowledge graph? How can I do something with a knowledge graph? I was like, okay, what we do usually is like we go in, we talk to business people, and there again, my technology and business, we ask questions. How do things work here? How are things, your business entities related to each other, business objects, and get a big understanding. And then we take this model that we've invented with others, and then we share it with the peers around it that have responsibilities and relations to it. And then people start looking at it, and it's like, oh, wow, hey, you have this subgraph that is modeling this and this element here. Oh, that's great. We can use it in this space here as well, and this would be
Yep.
helpful for us. And then you get more people looking on a knowledge graph and adding more and more edges to it, like building new cross references. And this adds up to new thinking that I have experienced in multiple workshops. And on the other hand, I also try to study here a bit next to my working. And there I learned more about design thinking patterns. And it's like, okay, design thinking is about like take something existing, try to subtract some elements or adding some elements or reuse existing components somewhere else. And I was like, oh, wait a moment, that completely reminds me what we're doing with knowledge graphs. And it's like, oh, yeah, well, this could be combined. It's just actually the same thing, but one thing is completely seen more from a technical point of view, the knowledge graphs, and the design thinking is more from the product designers,
Right.
innovators with not that technology focus right now, not the IT technology focus. And I was like, oh, that's basically two nice concepts that I can combine. And this is I have seen so much synergies, and I wrote this on LinkedIn, like, oh, here are some ideas around it, like um, how you can really combine and do it. It's in the end, it's a structured way about take the existing and try to remodel or combine it with other things that you can solve new problems or
Yep.
be ready for something like as I described earlier,
Exactly.
like we're talking about AI agents. So we have something existing and we can reuse this for AI agents or like reorganization of business units or IT departments, or like who is responsible for what. We have an impact on the organizational level here.
Right.
There is so much things how companies can innovate by combining the design thinking and knowledge graphs. There is,
Amazing.
if we say like I have a data centric thinking,
Yep.
this must be in the middle. And if companies don't adapt the data centric thinking, not sure if these companies gonna survive in a digital data centric world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. Now you just gave me the complete idea of how you're able to connect the synergies. Now, I mean, as a very fun fact, or let's say, I mean, on an anecdotal point of view, I just wanted to understand like what was the backstory for you to conceive this idea and come up with this article. Like, how did that come about? Like, what was the inspiration for this?
I think it was really the classes I have visited in university about design principles. And it was really, I don't know where this spark came from, to be honest. It was basically, I think it was while sitting on the studying, reading it, and it really like everything I read triggered me like, oh, this is the thing I'm doing daily work somehow. Well, in different words. Okay. And they have more concepts here in the design
Yeah, yeah,
thinking,
yeah.
even more methods that we could apply here. But what these guys are
Absolutely.
missing is basically this. And it's like it was just in my head, like going back and forth and back and forth. And then I wrote actually I'm not a native English speaker, so I'm using AI tools like ChatGPT to create more articles. So like I was discussing with OpenAI for a while, like, okay, and he said like, yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great thing you do. Like, and can you please add here more? Yeah, and please, and so this is how the article came out. Yeah,
Okay. That's a pretty good idea, or let's say a pretty good genesis for some good idea to come about. Pretty
yeah,
nice.
yeah. And
Awesome.
it's so great if we leverage the LLMs here to structure your ideas, but you
Yeah, yeah,
need in the end you need to have to give the LLM like your initial thoughts and then start refining it and explaining it
yeah.
the context, what you mean, as I said earlier. Like context is all about you need. Help this LLM say, okay, I have the context from here and the context from here. Here I see some synergies. Can you see more? And yeah, can be a great
Brilliant.
conversation.
Brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant, Tim. So, Tim, now, before we actually, conclude our podcast session, so let's take a
Yeah.
pretty lighter route at the moment. Like all this while we were just talking about your journey, then about all about APIs, data. So, I mean, it was a pretty insightful one, but let's take a lighter route in the form of, your likes and interests. Like everyone has likes and interest in their thing. So I'll shoot few questions to you in the form of a rapid fire.
Okay. Here we go.
Awesome. All right. So, Tim, since you're based out of Germany, I wanted to understand, like, what is your favorite Bundesliga team?
Oh, I'm really bad in soccer. Bayern Munich.
Bayern Munich, okay. Based in Frankfurt, but you support Bayern Munich.
Oh yeah, true. We have Frankfurt as well, team. Yeah, so I should say Eintracht Frankfurt. Yeah, sorry. I said it. Soccer is probably my weakest link. Yeah, but
Okay.
Eintracht Frankfurt is also a great team. And the beauty of I hear now a fun fact. Even so, I'm not really into soccer. Frankfurt team was a couple of years back. They were always like between first and second league, all the ways up and downs. I
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
saying like, it's great. You have every second year you can celebrate the going up to the next level. But nowadays, this team is really strong and they have really made some improvements. So probably should change my saying like, okay, Eintracht Frankfurt is currently a great team. Yeah.
It is a good team. Surprisingly, they really played well and they had very good players. There was one player called Omar Marmoush, but now that player is in Manchester City. So the thing about
Ah,
Frankfurt,
perfect.
Eintracht Frankfurt is that, they create all amazing people from their academy, but they sell them at a higher price. And they get
Yeah.
huge profits from that.
Smart. Yeah.
Really smart.
That's smart. Yeah.
That's amazing. So, since since you're a little bit, let's say basic with football, what is your favorite sport that you always like to watch?
Oh, okay. It's
So,
simply ice
sorry,
hockey. Ice
ice
hockey.
hockey? Ice hockey. Oh, okay. So, which team do you like in the ice hockey then?
Oh, there's not like that I have a specific favorite team, to be honest. It's more
Okay.
like I have here in the city I'm living, we have also a team which plays second league and stuff like. I love being there. The atmosphere is great. People are nice, and it's also to watch the game. It's a fast game. It's
Yeah, yeah.
there's constantly action on the field. It's really hard to follow the way the puck goes and what the rules and then probably sometimes the fighting on the match and stuff. So it's a more exciting sport to watch. And I think the after the game is over, like you're also as a visitor, you're exhausted, which is great.
Amazing. That's a pretty good choice, I would say. Now,
Yeah.
Tim, I would just like to ask you this, what is your favorite Indian dish that you would like to, try always?
Oh, my favorite. Oh, well, I don't want to be like the standard guy, but masala, chicken masala is probably or well,
Okay.
mm, yeah, I would say yeah, chicken masala.
Chicken masala. Okay, that's a pretty
Yeah,
good choice for sure.
yeah.
All right. If I ever visit Frankfurt, Tim, what is that restaurant that you would like to, recommend me to visit?
Oh, well, for you, because you're a foreigner, you should do the authentic German Frankfurtish Hessen eating style. So there is one famous big restaurant. It's called Wagner, and they have like a famous schnitzel and green sauce, and they have all these local dishes and apple wine. So this
Okay.
is the German cider, basically made out of
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
apples,
Yeah, yeah.
and be aware that you should drink at least you should drink one if you're for the
Yeah.
first time there, because a lot of apples, they have a lot of vinegar, apple fruit vinegar in it.
Oh, okay.
So you will know on the next day that you had some apple wine unless your stomach is really heavily trained. Yeah,
That's a pretty good, pretty good hindsight on that.
yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing. Now, what was the last movie, Tim, that you have watched?
Oh, the last movie I have watched. Oh, that's a pretty tough one. Actually, I have to admit, I'm more into shows which have,
Okay.
I'd say, mini shows like these Netflix things where they have, I don't know, 8 episodes or so, which I like more because like you get more into the within the character
Yeah,
and
yeah,
but it has a defined end.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah. So well, last movie I watched is probably something stupid. Um, I have to admit, I don't know.
Then you can, instead of that, you could just simply tell me what's your favorite TV show, or let's say, a favorite Netflix show that you watched.
Mm, oh, there are many, but one thing I really do like is because it's short and it's simple, it's funny. Do you know Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Well, and of course there's like Big Bang Theory, of course, that's also
Yeah,
something I love watching. Um, and there are so many funny shows out there, but I'm more like
absolutely.
into more for fun because I see TV as something relaxing. I'm absolutely not a horror person, absolutely not. For me, life should be fun, not
Neither me.
threatening.
Absolutely. I'm dead scared of horror. I've not watched a single horror film full till date.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Why should you?
Not at all. I mean, that doesn't suit me at all, to be
Yeah.
honest. And the final question to you, Tim, I mean, our listeners are completely, new to the German culture and German language. So if there is
Mhm.
any particular German word that you would like to, and let's say, encourage, or let's say introduce my listeners with, what would that German word be? Or let's say a German sentence, a famous German sentence.
I love that thing is the Germans, we have great we can combine words quite easily in the German language. You can build super
Okay.
long words, but also like words that have a complex meaning. So there's one German word, it's called verschlimmbessern, which
Okay.
means to to break something, then fix it, and after you're fixing it's even worse. So that's probably the sentence, and we have one single word for that.
Oh, everything, every emotion, combined into one sentence. Wow, that's interesting.
Well, the word is not long, but the word is quite simple. But it's the combination of like
Yeah.
fixing, breaking, and fixing, and the outcome is really bad.
Okay.
It's a great it shows actually how powerful the German language is. And I think the
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
challenging for me is like, and if you speak in English, you have to think not that complex. Make words even simpler. Make sentences simpler. That's probably the toughest thing. So the German language is amazing. And did you know that most manuals for machines are originally written in German and then translated back to the local language because the German language is
Yeah.
so expressive.
Yeah. I
That's
mean,
really
actually,
interesting.
definitely, definitely. Whenever I see certain manuals or let's say about any gadget,
Yeah.
German language is pretty much there, and I always wonder, why is the German language, there in, let's say, in abundance. So that actually, answers my question. That was a question I had long back. Now, finally, you've
Ah,
answered it
there
now.
you go.
Indirectly, but gone good, good.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's pretty good, Tim. So, Tim, finally, again, once again, thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule and being part of my Space podcast initiative. It was lovely conversing with you, especially on the lines of API data about your journey. Everything was so valuable and so insightful, and I just had a great conversation with you.
Thank you for inviting me, Akil. It was a real pleasure. And yeah, see you soon in the roundtable.
Definitely, definitely. The roundtable is pretty much going to kick off, and listeners, yes. So this is the final announcement for this, and we're going to start pretty soon. So, listeners, on this note, this is your host Akhil Lavluri signing off. We would be back with another podcast episode very soon with another eminent industry leader. So, till then, keep listening. Stay tuned. Goodbye. Thank you, Awa and Danke, and also subscribe to Tim's podcast initiative, which is called Tapas and Pretzels, and that's going to be pretty much insightful. So, thank you again, once again. Take care. Stay tuned. Goodbye. Thank you.